sandbaggers in Des Moines sandbagging 24 hours a day, and more people showed up than they could actually use to work. And there's no doubt, I'm told by the mayor of Cedar Falls, Mayor Cruz, that the effort of volunteers in Cedar Falls, and that's right across the river from Waterloo, that the thousands of sandbags, tens of thousands that were filled and reinforced the levee, saved the downtown area of Cedar Falls. So everywhere we went last week, that Senator Grassley and I went, we witnessed Iowans giving their all to help their neighbors. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Iowa National Guard. Thank God for the Iowa National Guard. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're here. Now, they've been deployed a lot in Afghanistan and in Iraq. But it's nice to know they're home now. And they were there to help. Over 2,500 members were mobilized. General Dardis, the head of our Iowa National Guard, has done a superb job. Everywhere you go, you see these National Guard people out there. They're working, they're organizing, they're taking leadership positions, and they're doing everything. Everything from filling sandbags to working the levees, helping people out of their homes, doing a magnificent job. And you know, again, I see these National Guard kids out there. I don't know when they ever sleep. I mean, there's like 24 hours a day, they just keep going. Well, I guess if there's any good news, it's that in Iowa City, the water crested yesterday. But again, when I talk over flood stage, you know, usually when you talk about something being over flood stage, you talk about it being a few inches over. Get this, in Cedar Rapids, the old record was 20 feet, set in 1929. On Friday, the river crested at 32 feet, almost 12 feet. It was almost 12 feet higher than any time ever. We've never had this ever. This has never happened in Cedar Rapids ever before. Across eastern Iowa, the flooding rivers have washed out railroad lines. Mississippi barge traffic has come to a halt. Closed major roadways, as I said, Interstate 80 still closed. Thousands of Iowa businesses, large and small, have been impacted. John Deere had to evacuate 2 of its plants in Waterloo. I mentioned the Quaker Oats plant here, the largest plant in the world, flooded, left idle. Cedar Rapids, 400 city blocks submerged. That's valued close to $750 million right there. An early estimate of damage to Iowa's agriculture economy, I can tell you right now, will exceed over $1 billion. That's just agriculture. That's just agriculture. Well, Mr. President, Iowans are a resilient and resourceful people. But as with the Gulf Coast in the wake of Katrina, we're going to need generous federal assistance to help us get back on our feet. The destruction is so vast that it is simply beyond the capacity of local governments and the Iowa state government to handle it by themselves. Now again, these hardest hit states, and keep in mind, we talk about the big cities, there's so many small towns and communities out there that have been hit hard that need help, and jobs that need to be rebuilt. And it's not just Iowa. We've got Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, Kansas, Minnesota have all been hard hit by flooding and tornadoes. I believe the hardest hit states will need to have the local matching funds for FEMA assistance. That's normally 25%. They're going to have to be reduced as much as possible. As much as possible. And I hope we can work with the administrator and with President Bush, get that down as much as possible. The Iowa delegation, on a bipartisan, bicameral basis, is preparing a letter right now asking the President for this relief. There's no conceivable way that a state with a devastation on the scale that Senator Grassley and I witnessed this weekend can come up with a 25% match in order to trigger the customary FEMA assistance. Now, beyond that, we're going to need to move quickly in addressing the weaknesses in our flood control systems, some other mitigation needs so that businesses and homes can be safely repaired. The full 15% in FEMA disaster mitigation assistance provided is authorized back